Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Preston Labour campaign and manifesto launch titled Building Resilience and Recovery in Preston. Thank you all to those who are joining us today and to all the fantastic speakers who are going to speak tonight. If viewers could please like, share, comment and retweet this live stream to spread the word, it would be much appreciated. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jade Morgan. I've been a councillor for Preston City Council for almost 5 years, and I'm also the chair of the Preston Labour group. I'll be chairing this campaign and manifesto launch tonight and introducing some of our really fantastic speakers. I'm very honoured to have been asked to chair this campaign launch because we're going to cover some really important topics and lay out our vision for Preston in the run-up to and after the elections. I also had the honour of chairing the 2019 Preston Labour campaign launch, so the difference was that we could actually meet people pre-COVID. And I'll be honest, it is a little bit daunting to chair a completely virtual campaign launch, but I think it's going to be really good, as we've displayed this past year through the pandemic, that Preston Labour can adapt to any situation, and we're not going to let anything stop us from pursuing our goals in Preston and continuing to make life better for the people who live here. So it's no secret that even Preston was up against it even before COVID, after some brutal cuts to local government budgets, and then the central government's disastrous handling of the coronavirus pandemic as well. But here in Preston, we didn't let ourselves be ground down by the pandemic or surrender to helplessness. We asked ourselves, how could we adapt and survive this pandemic, and how could we fight to make sure that Prestonians weren't suffering because of the Conservatives' incompetency? So thanks to some of the amazing hard work of the council officers, staff, cabinet members and our leader, we still managed to achieve some wonderful things this past year despite the adversity. This includes partnering up with local community groups and organisations to provide food hubs to those who are struggling, being flexible when it came to council tax and debtors in the city, as we know many businesses and individuals have been impacted financially by the pandemic. Similarly, the council have also helped out many businesses in Preston with things such as loans, tax relief and cash grants, and helping to make businesses that were able to remain open COVID secure. Councillors like myself has also had to adapt in several ways too, in order to make sure that we can continue handling casework by working from home and attending online Zoom meetings and full council meetings on Skype. We've pressed on with council business like our annual budget and presenting the very first virtual notices of motion, which have been fantastic. And despite all this, Preston Labour knows it's not enough to survive, because we want Preston to thrive. And that's what this manifesto is about. It's about building Preston back up after this pandemic and making sure that our future is bright, positive and progressive. Not just that, but this campaign is a signal that we're going to fight harder than ever to kick the Conservatives out of local and central government alike. And our first speaker is someone who's very familiar with fighting to kick the Conservatives out of government. So our first speaker tonight is going to be Angela Rayner, the Labour Party Deputy Leader. She's going to speak about the importance of the May elections for Labour nationally, the failure of the Conservatives in dealing with the pandemic and the economy, and how the Preston model shows how Labour leaders in local and regional government are building fairer communities. So welcome, Angela.
Thanks, Jade. Hopefully you can all hear me. Train at the moment, so up and down the country now that we can. You know, this May elections are so important for communities in Preston and across the country, with the Tories leaving our kids going hungry and leaving people unable to make ends meet. And I've been in Wales this week talking about the difference that Labour makes in power, and that's why I'm really pleased that Matthew Brown asked me to speak tonight, because in Preston you're showing the difference that Labour makes in power to people's lives every single day. And Labour in local government is using its power as well to protect people and build new local economies and across Preston, and, you know, across all the areas that we've got people in power. It's been amazing, especially on things like free school meals, or the Preston model, to build a more resilient and local economy where wealth is shared, and instead of money flowing out of the local area, there is a focus on boosting the local economy in the face of a decade, as we know, let's not forget, of Tory austerity that has been, you know, to see that achievement has been absolutely amazing. And Labour councils now across the country, including in Greater Manchester, in my own area, Merseyside, London, North of Tyne and the Welsh Assembly, are now adopting community wealth building as well. And you were the pioneers in that, which is great to see. And there's a growing interest in international collaboration with democratic cities in the US, including New York and Chicago, on a transatlantic community wealth building agenda. And you can imagine how that can unlock the potential of areas across the whole of, you know, the United Kingdom and the North. And during the pandemic, Labour has established our own contact tracing system in Preston, stepping in where we know the outsourced national services absolutely failed. And through community well-building, our local NHS has brought PPE equipment from, you know, Preston-based company, which provided masks to the NHS hospital staff in central Lancashire and created 90 jobs during the pandemic. That's what we're able to do when we're in power. And going forward, I know that Matthew and the team will have big plans to regenerate Preston city centre, and I'm hoping to come and visit very, very soon. And I know that'll be through a £40 million new cinema and leisure development, which in these times, it's really difficult sometimes to get these things off the ground. But I know that, you know, Matthew and the team will be able to do that. And it'll be in zone and 11 million of investment in the Harris Museum and the Art Gallery. And as institutions, we can all be proud of them. And that's what being in Preston's about. It's not just about where you live, it's about where you know, support each other and how you can come together as a community. And I know that there's big plans for regional cooperative bank as well, the Northwest Mutual, which is a fantastic idea. And the plans to establish 20 new worker cooperative businesses to build a more democratic local economy. And that will really make a big difference to areas like Preston. And this is a vision and a future that we can all be proud of, showing the difference that Labour makes in power. And it's so inspiring for us in Parliament, facing, you know, the Tory majority and seeing the difference that Labour councils make across the country. And I also want to give a massive shout out for Lancashire County Council election as well, which I'm going to be up in Lancashire soon. And we have an absolute massive battle on our hands there. We need all hands to the deck. So, you know, that's my plea tonight, is that people get out there and they get that message out. And, you know, after the last year we've had, you can see the absolute difference it makes when you've got Labour in power and when you've got the Tories. You know, Andy Burnham was there fighting for our communities in Greater Manchester when the Tories said that we were worth 2/3 of the wages of the workers in the South. And, you know, we should told that we should just be grateful for the crumbs. Well, we're not having that. And, you know, I was told off for saying unparliamentary language by calling one of them scum in the debate around free school meals. But quite frankly, you know, I've got skin in the game here. Our kids were going hungry and they didn't care about that. But Labour Council stepped in. And that's the difference that we make. So thank you so much for being on the call tonight. And thank you for inviting me to your launch. Sorry I'm on the train, but I hope to come and visit you again very, very soon in the flesh. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Angela. We really hope to see you soon in Preston and Lancashire. Okay, so that was Angela Rayner, MP, who just spoke just then, and obviously a fantastic speaker, made some great points. Our next speaker tonight is going to be Janet Newsham from the Preston and South Ribble Trades Council and Unite, speaking about support for workers' rights, real living wage, anti-racism and a new local economy by the Labour Council. Hi, Janet.
Hiya, thanks very much, Jane. I'm pleased to be joining you tonight to support the Preston Labour Manifesto Building Resilience and Recovery in Preston. I am a proud Prestonian and a mother of 3 boys in their early 20s, and I know only too well the future for young people is causing huge anxiety at the moment. They're looking at a world of great uncertainty, businesses closing and the first rung on the job ladder seemingly out of reach. I understand the importance of prioritising and supporting any initiative that will improve their chances getting a job, but it has to be work with stability and quality. They are looking to their futures and how they can support and finance their independence and their own families. The pandemic has highlighted the inequalities and disproportionate impact those inequalities have had on health, safety and wealth. Those workers in decent employment with employers that prioritise their health and safety are also the same ones that pay the wages that people can live on and with good conditions of employment. The pandemic has exposed those in insecure work not receiving sick pay with employers that aren't controlling their risks of infections, resulting in mental and physical ill health. Thousands have died and many are going to be left with long-term ill health and disabilities as a result. The UK's declining life expectancy rate, which is impacted by impoverished living conditions experienced by those people on low wages and in insecure contracts. And if Preston is to survive and thrive after the pandemic, it is important that there are high quality jobs paying at a rate where people are able to live and be healthy. This is not only good for individuals, but also for our community. The work that Preston Council has done to improve workers' basic rights and pay has been exemplary, ambitious and crucial to our city's future. I've been proud to be associated with many of the inspired initiatives delivered and supported by the Council. In particular, the Stand Together Against Racism initiative, which brought together people from different cultures and ethnic groups. Preston has a diverse community steeped in proud traditions with a wealth of dedicated and inspiring individuals. It is something I value most about our community. Finally, I've participated and been extremely uplifted by the vision of the Council to look at different business models. As a trade unionist and educator, I have welcomed the emphasis on encouraging Preston citizens to support each other in cooperatives, which are the spirit of northern communities and part of our rich history. The meetings about Mondragon have been motivating, and as a result, I've been pleased to be one of the founding members of the new Cooperative Education Centre being established in Preston. It's hoped that it will provide an organisation which is responsive to the needs of working people in the city. If it wasn't for the encouragement, resources and creative thinking of the Council, this and many other initiatives would not have taken place. Our city is internationally recognised for its ambitious and inspired vision. Many of us may not be massively affluent, but we are rich in our heritage, our diversity, and our social and community participation and collective spirit. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Janet. That was wonderful. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for volunteering to speak on some really, really important issues. So our next speaker tonight is going to be someone a lot of people will be familiar with, Mark Hendrick MP. He's going to be speaking in support of the campaign and manifesto, the effects on Preston of the Tory policies during this pandemic, and the need for Labour to win locally on May the 6th. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Jade, and thanks very much for the invite and the introduction. It's great to be here tonight with our top candidates for these forthcoming elections. I understand we've got the Labour County Council Group Leader, Azhar Ali, joining us. We've also got Lancashire Labour Police Commissioner candidate Clive Grunshaw, and of course Preston City Council's Labour Leader, Matthew Brown. Now, this will be the biggest set of elections since the general election of 2019, when I was elected again to serve the people of Preston. These elections will be the first big test of public opinion, with Keir Starmer our leader and Angela as deputy. And therefore, it's important that we remind the public over the coming weeks what a disaster for Lancashire this Conservative government has been. In addition, we need to inform them how Labour can make a difference county-wide and locally in terms of fighting to improve services across the county and the city. In terms of the manifesto and the programme that Labour's got, I'm sure Matthew will give you more detail about that, but it is exciting and it's something I think we've all got to look forward to. But just looking at the Conservative mismanagement and the excess deaths and economic effects of that bad management of the COVID-19 pandemic, these have wreaked havoc across the country with close to 130,000 deaths nationally and businesses and livelihoods decimated up and down the country. The North West and Lancashire are seeing more than most other regions and counties. Infection levels and job losses continue to take their toll on the people of Lancashire and Preston. And in the meantime, those very, very important local services provided by county and the city council have been hit by years of funding cuts and are struggling to keep up with the aftermath and the effects of this Conservative government's policies and the mismanagement of the COVID pandemic. The NHS has been overstretched by years of underfunding. Care homes have been neglected of PPE in the early parts of the pandemic, and therefore many of our loved ones have been lost to the virus. The county's public health director and services should have been involved in the test, trace and isolate efforts early on in this crisis, and that would have saved billions of pounds of taxpayers' money that could have been spent locally instead of wasted on cronies and friends of this Conservative government. On test, trace and isolate, as well as improving local services, this is where the government money should have been spent and hasn't been spent. And public health control measures have been very well established in Lancashire for many decades, and the government has really failed to take the advantage that they should have done over the expertise and knowledge that we have here, instead of employing the companies that are owned by their friends in the Conservative Party. As a local MP, I've heard firsthand about the way in which local people have been affected. Jobs lost, people struggling to survive and feed their children, the inadequacies of universal credit, so that people having to decide whether to heat their own homes or eat, businesses not adhering to updated health and safety regulations and guidance, putting workers at risk. So these elections are very important. This is our opportunity to say to this government and what you should expect from a good government, and that things would be better under Labour. These elections are the opportunity to say no to what this government is inflicting on the people of Lancashire and Preston. To have a Labour county, Labour local government and a police commissioner representative in this county will mitigate the worst effects of this government. And we need to send a message that at the next general election, we want to change to a Labour government to protect the people we serve in Lancashire and in Preston. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming here and speaking tonight. So our next speaker tonight is going to be County Councillor Azhar Ali, who is the leader of the Lancashire Labour Group. He's going to be talking about his plans for a Labour-led county council and how they'll work with a Labour-led city council and police and crime commissioner. Hi, Azhar. How are you doing?
Hi, Jade. Thank you very much for the invite. Some really good speeches from Angela and from Mark. Can I start off by thanking Preston Labour Group for inviting us to your launch? Really appreciated. And I just want to add to that my thanks to Kevin Ellard and Carl Crompton for the brilliant service they've given to the county group and as county councillors over the last few years. And I want to wish them well in their retirement. Angela talked about austerity and the impact of austerity over the last 10 years. And I sound like I'm a broken record, but in the last 10 years, the county council has lost over £600 million in revenue budget. That's a massive amount when you think we're the third largest authority in the country. And I want to commit myself here today to say that the Preston model, which has been rolled out now across the country and internationally is recognised, will turn the Preston model into the Lancashire model. We'll roll out all the principles of the Preston model and make sure that that helps us grow jobs and it helps grow our economy. We've committed to putting £20 million extra into tackling Tory potholes, millions into tackling and improving flood defences. And not only that, we've recognised that the pandemic has had a massive impact on people's mental health, on people's physical health, and we're going to make sure that kids get free swimming and school holidays, and that we're going to give 11 to 18-year-olds free leisure passes, working in conjunction with the CCGs and our leisure providers. So that we can tackle some of the mental health issues and we can tackle child obesity. One of the things that we've always missed a trick at Lancashire County Council is that we've never used our assets in order to build social housing. And we've seen in South Ribble and a number of the district councils where Labour leaders have gone in there and transformed the way that they work using their property and the land that they own. So we will use the massive resources that LCC has to work in partnership with our district councils like Preston, with housing providers to build more social housing. Not only that, we will also make sure that we work and create high-tech green jobs. You know, there's lots of young people who leave our region, leave cities like Preston and go down south or to the bigger cities because of the lack of opportunities. What we want to do is build on the excellent work that Matthew Brown and his team have done in Preston and do something different, which puts Lancashire back on the map. And Lancashire becomes a powerhouse. For too long, it's been held back because of Greater Manchester racing ahead and with Steve Rotherham racing ahead on Merseyside. Now is the time for us to come together as Labour in Lancashire, and we make sure that we have a Labour-led Lancashire County Council, a Labour-led Preston City Council, and if we can work together, I'm sure we can make a massive difference. Matthew's been talking to me, as has Peter in the past, about how we could work together and talking about the improvements to retail developments in the city centre, improvements and bringing back on board the youth zone. And I think all these things are possible, Jade, if we get control. And that's really important, because I was saying to Jenny Mean earlier, I just can't bear 4 more years of opposition at Lancashire County Council as we see resources wasted and as we see resources put into Tory areas. And those areas that need the resources the most are kept on the side. So I just want to once again thank you very much. I really appreciate the excellent work that Preston Labour Group and the party have been doing. And now is the chance to make sure that we return all 6 seats back, because that is the bedrock of our group. And you have fantastic candidates, and I want to say, a big sort of shout out for Anna Hindel and Navida. Your group is really working hard for you. I know, talking to colleagues in Preston, that they're really keen, and they've had a really good response on the doors that they want you to be elected. And I look forward to seeing everybody on May the 7th, hopefully, with Labour control Lancashire County Council and a Labour leader in Matthew Brown of Preston City Council.
Thank you so much for those brilliant words. Definitely echo everything that has been said, and let's hopefully turn Lancashire County Council red again. So our next speaker tonight is going to be Omar Khan, who is from Preston United, a local community organisation. He's going to be speaking about what the community has done during the pandemic and how the Labour Council have offered support with food provision, COVID-19, and establishing a new food co-op. Hi Omar, how are you doing?
Hi Jade, hi everybody, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Omar Khan. I'm a project manager for Preston United's Youth Development Programme. Established in 2002, we have been at the forefront of community development work across this city. Living through what can only be described as one of the most difficult periods in history, this city has shown the resilience to cope and well on its way towards recovery. This is because of the Labour Party. The last 12 months has clearly been a difficult time for everyone. The disparities and inequalities in health have never been more highlighted. The health inequalities in the poorest neighbourhoods in Preston is a result of austerity measures placed upon our Labour Council by the Tory government. Nevertheless, the Labour Council has dug deep and found a way of providing the essential support that has saved so many lives in this city over the last 12 months. As a community worker for the past 25 years, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible coordinated effort the City Council has made to ensure that it provided the financial support to get this city through the pandemic. I cannot praise enough the work that has been carried out, or may I add, in continuous consultation and collaboration with key community contacts. This continuous communication with the third sector and the faith groups has ensured that the needs of the communities were being heard and listened to. From March 23rd, when we went into National Lockdown 1, this City Council has provided emergency food relief via the many community food banks coming together to meet the ever-increasing need, continuously updating and informing everyone in regards to the key COVID messages, promoting a sense of control and certainty during the very confusing time for everyone. Tackling digital poverty that enabled so many families during homeschooling to have the access to the digital devices, ensuring the poorest didn't fall behind in their education. Having local COVID testing centres in the heart of the community, enabling a rapid response to the pandemic, making available emergency COVID grants direct to families, making their lives just that little bit easier to cope with during the pandemic. Providing the community champion funding to key community groups and faith groups to ensure that the vaccination take up, in particular with those communities that nationally have reluctance to come forward to get the vaccination. All this was possible because the Labour Council kept communication open to the community. Regular meetings with public health leads, facilitated by the Faith Covenant and the City Council, provided answers to the questions that the community, again, easing the stress and confusion among the public. The development of cooperatives is challenging the current system and supporting members of the community to come together and work together. An example of this is the food cooperative that, along with 2 other community groups, we, Preston United, are developing to support a sustainable and community-led solution to food poverty in this city. That will ensure that no child will go hungry in this city, go to bed without essential food in his body. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone at the Council for their tireless efforts for the past 12 months. I want to make a special mention for the community engagement team at Preston City Council, who have been at the forefront of all their efforts. This special relationship between the communities and the City Council has enabled a good partnership approach that has led to an effective and an efficient way that ensured that those struggling had the support that they needed the most. I also want to thank in particular Matthew Brown and the Deepdale councillors Zafar Coupland, Ismail Bucks, Siraj Nata, who have worked tirelessly in our ward with the highest population of BAME community who have suffered disproportionately during COVID. A big thank you to our local councillors. In times of need, the Preston Labour Group have without question been there, and this is why I am supporting the Labour Group. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Omar. And thank you for all of the work that Preston United and other local community organisations are doing, providing such crucial support during this pandemic. So thank you very much for that. So our next speaker tonight is going to be Clive Grunshaw, who is our Lancashire Police and Crime Commissioner. He's going to be speaking about his priorities as a Police and Crime Commissioner, including tackling hate crime and violence against women, and the work they've done as an anchor institution supporting community wealth building. Hi Clive, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, Jade. Listen, it's a privilege to be invited. So good evening, everybody. As Jade said then, really it's talking about in terms of the experience that I've had over the last few years and where we can go from here now. In my time as Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire, my aim has been to deliver the best possible services for the people of our county, services to the most at risk in society, victims of abuse, victims of hate crime, to ensure that they get justice. We have delivered this, and we are now recognised as one of the best performing and most efficient police forces in the country. And this is despite the devastating cuts to policing by this Tory government, cuts across the whole of the public sector that has had a massive impact. Now, I've spoken out incessantly against the cuts within the public sector and challenged the government at every opportunity. Cuts to the public sector all have a knock-on impact within society, but also within police as well. I'm also proud to have incorporated my values, our values, Labour values into policing, ensuring diversity in all its forms. I've introduced a social value policy back in Lancashire, copying what you have achieved in Preston with the Preston model, and worked alongside Matthew with the Preston model, learning the ideas that you've got and incorporating that into policing. And that ensures that more of our spending power is invested into the local business community, promoting apprenticeships, fair employment practices, and paying the living wage. One major example of these changes has been with the insourcing of custody provision, over 100 staff, bringing them back in-house from being previously outsourced to G4S. These staff are now on Lancashire police paying conditions. They're providing a far better service. They are better trained. And so it not only makes sense financially, but it makes sense in terms of delivering a better service for the people of our county. The aim for my re-election now is to together we can rebuild neighbourhood policing, rebuild the community spirit that Lancashire and Preston, of course, is famous for, and ensure that we remain a safe and wonderful place to live. These elections are critical. They are essential. We cannot allow the Tories to take even more of our services away. And make no mistake, when we get to the people that will pay the bill for COVID, they will be coming after the public sector again. And it's the people that we represent that are the people that need those services. And so these elections are about protecting those people, the people that are dependent upon adult social care, children's social care, the infrastructure that is provided through the whole public sector that the Tories don't value. The Tories see the public sector as a way of making money. We see the public sector as providing a service to those in need, and that is the different mindset, and that is why these elections are so important. We in Lancashire have borne the brunt of the cuts, and we have, without a doubt, so far. And we're now, for policing, we're being offered the scraps off the table, whilst many police forces in the south have already now they've already got more police on their streets than 10 years ago, more police on their streets than ever before. And yet here in Lancashire, we are still 600 police officers fewer than we had 10 years ago. This is not acceptable. This is something that the public should be outraged about. Our treatment in Lancashire by this government. You know, we cannot accept that Lancashire can be treated as a second-class county, and we must fight back. You know, this is our opportunity to do so. We must tell people about this unfair treatment. We've got to educate them. We've got to capture their anger, our anger, at this unfairness. We've got to agitate them, and we've got to give them the opportunity to fight back through supporting us, through voting Labour, and us being the voice of working people to organise them, educate, agitate and organise. It's as true now as it's ever been. We are the party of competence, justice and hope, of enterprise, industry and pride. And certainly in Lancashire, you know, we are where the Industrial Revolution was born. We need that new revolution to start here. And that has got to shine through in these coming weeks. This is for Preston, it's for Lancashire, and most importantly, this is for the people that need our support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Clive, for those passionate words that are all really true and ring true today. I voted for you in 2016 and I'll definitely be voting for you again because I know how hard you'll fight for Preston and Lancashire, so you'll definitely earn my vote. Okay, so our next speaker tonight is going to be Gareth Nash, who is part of the Preston Cooperative Development Network. He's going to speak about how Labour has supported the cooperative economy and how a growing number of new co-op businesses are being incubated in Preston. Welcome, Gareth.
Thank you, Jade, and thanks everyone for inviting me to say a few words about cooperative development in Preston, which is extremely vibrant. Actually, I earn my living through working with a couple of colleagues in a workers' co-op and have done for almost 20 years. But I'm also a co-director and a member of Preston Cooperative Development Network. And this was founded some 3 or 4 years ago, particularly with the support of the City Council, to be a specialist body to stimulate the co-op economy in Preston. You know, so we want to promote co-ops, we want to promote the benefits of the model, we want to develop new co-ops, we want to support people on their journey, and we want to encourage those with an interest in co-ops to network. And of course, we've been doing this virtually throughout the pandemic for the last 12 months. I think it's important to say that co-ops are absolutely integral to Preston City Council's community wealth building model. And I think while efforts to expand the co-op economy have been undertaken over the last 3 or 4 years, it's particularly in the last 24 months, I think, that momentum has really started to build. And that's a combination of the city, Preston Cooperative Development Network, the university, and other colleagues coming together to make sure that we're focused and we get the job done. Co-ops have become a remarkably flexible form, probably over the last 20 or 30 years. So workers use them when they can't get a job to start a business. Buyouts, we can buy out private businesses. The workers can then control those businesses. Workers in the gig economy, of course, who are so badly treated and work precariously, can form co-ops to strengthen their position. Communities can use the co-op model to safeguard local services, to safeguard an asset. And workers and service users, this is a really interesting idea, that workers and service users can collaborate together to provide a new service. I mean, this is evident in health and social care, indeed in criminal justice. So in Preston, we're seeing the results of the commitment from the city and the collaboration with Preston Cooperative Development Network, that specialist body, and the university, which has got funding to produce 10 worker co-ops. And it's been remarkable, I think, that the growth and the momentum in the pipeline that we've seen over the last 12 or 18 months. So people are using the co-op model because they see that it provides a solution. As Omar was saying, as Janet was saying, we've got a group of taxi drivers in Preston who they don't want to work for Uber, and they see Uber as a threat, and they are forming an embryonic black cab co-op. We've got the Preston Digital Foundation, which is a collaboration between lecturers at UCLan and students at UCLan to keep technology students in the area. We've got Preston Labour, which is beginning to transform the food system, and along with the food buying groups that Omar was talking about, these are making a major impact. We're working in criminal justice in HMP Wymont and Edith Rigby House to support residents and staff to form co-ops so that ex-prisoners have jobs and networks when they go out into the community. And there are embryonic groups and inquiries that are coming through that show the strength of the co-op movement in Preston. You know, we've got a makers co-op. We're talking to Climate Action Preston about solar panels on buildings, a social care co-op, and most recently, this will be a flagship co-op. We have a group of Black and ethnic minority translators and interpreters. It's all very exciting, and I look forward to working with you all over the next period. Thanks ever so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for speaking tonight, Gareth. That was excellent, and we really enjoyed having you here and informing us on all of the work that's been done. Okay, so our next speaker tonight is Aditya Chakraborty, and he's going to speak about the promise of community wealth building, how it has expanded rapidly across the UK and overseas, and how the local elections in Preston are important as the place that began this journey. Hi Aditya, how are you doing tonight?
Hi Jade, I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Great to hear you speak, and happy to hear what you got to say on this.
So I want to make clear, I'm not a politician, I'm a journalist, and I take that role seriously, which means I'm not a member of any political party. I don't go campaigning for political parties. But I am particularly interested in what Preston's doing with the community wealth building programme that it's been following for some years now. And it's because of that that I really want to speak to you. I've just heard what Gareth was saying about the kind of the various other things that the City Council was up to. When I visited Preston first a few years ago and met Matthew Brown, Martin Ronson, a few of the other people from the council, one of the things that struck me was that Preston had made a very deliberate choice not to do the kinds of things that other councils up and down the country, whether Labour or Conservative, were doing. The obvious thing that it could have done was sell off loads of its land, build a giant shopping centre, which I think was the plan at one point for Preston, or alternatively build a load of housing, private housing, unaffordable housing that only rich people could afford to buy. And that wasn't what Preston was doing. It was doing something a lot riskier, a lot more experimental, and stuff that was actually already starting to bear fruit after only a few years. I called it, in a piece I wrote for The Guardian, I called it a form of guerrilla localism. The way I see it was an attempt to get more local businesses and local services in the area, in Lancashire as well, to do what the council needed, rather than to go down to London to the big chains to provide all the council services. It was also about trying to build alternative council owned or cooperative owned services where the council needed them. So it was an attempt to create an alternative economy, an incredibly brave and bold thing to do. And as I think other people have said on this call, you've already started to see some of the fruits of that with a big turnaround in the polling for the area, so now seen as one of the most improved cities in the UK, but also a growth in the local economy. If you think about the choices that face local councils at the moment, they're pretty stark, really. Every council in the UK has faced year upon year of cuts for 10 years or so, thanks to David Cameron, George Osborne, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, the lot. You keep on seeing local councils getting hit and hit hard, and it really squeezes what they can do. And local councillors, when their back's up against the wall, some of them do really daft things. And what stands out about Preston, in my eyes, is, first of all, the boldness of the vision to try and create an alternative economy that works for people who actually live and work in Preston. But also the seriousness which I've seen the councillors and council officers who are in Preston, the seriousness with which they tackle it. It's not unusual, let's face it, it's not unusual for politicians to talk big and promise big things. But you can tell from the kind of work that the City Council has been up to that it's really focused at a granular level. They're really quite obsessed about getting stuff right, to the point where sometimes you think, well, they spend more evenings sweating over this stuff than I would like to give up. But it's highly impressive. And to go back to this point about the choice that faces councils, well, there's also a choice that faces all of us as citizens. And you can see it in a moment, right? You get a choice between, at big national level, between a government that thinks that its idea of local economic growth is about moving a few jobs out of Westminster up to the regions, and then creating free ports, maybe cutting taxes, maybe cutting red tape, i.e. protections for people who live in the area. And at the same time, you get the kind of the politicians at national level, even they want to say ex-prime ministers, busy trying to beg for extra cash and extra favours for the companies they represent and who now pay them. And against that, you have an idea of an economy and an idea of a society in which there is a genuine effort to raise up everyone who lives in it. And that's what I see in the community wealth building programme. And I would really like to support what Preston's doing now. I think it's a beacon of hope for a lot of people in this country, across the country. and I wish them all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed having you speaking here today. I know we might just sway to Labour just yet, so fingers crossed. Okay, so our next speaker tonight is going to be Councillor Matthew Brown, who's a leader of the Preston City Council. He's going to speak about the achievements of the Labour Council so far, our manifesto, and how it's going to deepen its radicalism as we emerge from the pandemic and work alongside a Labour County Council and Preston Crime Commissioner. Thank you so much, Matthew, for appearing tonight. Really looking forward to hearing you speak.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Jade, and thank you to all the fantastic speakers for sparing the time to join us tonight for this launch, really. It's really crucial for the future direction of our city, these elections. There's not just one, there's three. So it's the day of the three elections on May the 6th. And obviously, to bring what we want to bring to scale that all the other speakers, including Aditya, have mentioned, we really need to have three Labour politicians, in myself, in Preston, in Azhar, in the County Council, but also in Clive Grunshaw as the Police and Crime Commissioner. And obviously, what we're doing in Preston is trying to bring a bit of courage into local politics because, quite eloquently already it's been said about how the Tory economic policies and the neoliberal economic policies we've arguably had since 1979, it really has been it's really shown how people have suffered during the pandemic and now the structural inequalities through decades of privatisation, austerity and outsourcing have led to certain groups more disproportionately affected than others. So say, for example, if you're less well off, you were 2.5 times more likely to be affected by COVID. If you're a BME community, from a BME community or from the disabled community, again, disproportionately affected. So, it's been really difficult. And as a Labour council in Preston, we've thrown everything at it, but ultimately we've had a national contact tracing system that's been run by unaccountable corporations instead of local public health professionals. We lobbied for self-isolation payments. It took months to receive that. The schools were unsafe, and we supported the National Education Union in pushing for just simple things like having children wearing masks, which they've conceded anyway, and also blended learning. And again, that wasn't coming. It's been a real disaster. And then also in October, they tried putting us into tier 3, without our consent, and that would have seen, people on 2/3 furlough in our community, potentially for weeks and months. And again, the powers that we need as local authorities to shut down premises and other things, it's not been there. And if you have austerity as well, it really does make it really difficult to actually tackle a public health crisis like this. But also as well, it shows about how our economy is structured and who's really suffered. So basically, the people who've really got us through this, often the people who are less well paid. So it's people in the care, retail sector, the gig economy, health workers, again, often from minority communities, often not particularly well paid. They've actually really got us through this pandemic, and they obviously need to be acknowledged and rewarded going forward. So, as Omar and others have said, we have really tried throwing everything at this. So we've decided we want to run the contact tracing ourselves within Preston. We've done that through Councillor Navida Khan, Cabinet Member for Communities and Social Justice. We've delivered nearly 1 million meals to the people in Preston, and along with Andy Burnham and Steve Rotherham, we successfully lobbied for self-isolation. But I mean, our council has been Labour for a decade now, and I was in the Cabinet 10 years ago. I've been leader for nearly 3 years, but we really feel we're at the stage now we can really transform our community and transform our local economy. And some of our achievements that we really got to think about, these are political choices, and it's a real hard slog to actually get these achievements there. So, for example, we're the first real living wage employer in the north of England. Not the first council, but the first employer in the north of England. And we've now got over 50. So that means in Preston, the big institutions mainly pay at least £9.50 an hour. It means out of 14 council areas where the best for people who work here receive at least £9.50 an hour. And again, that helps women and helps people of a minority community and disabled workers. So that's very positive. For a decade, we've said to developers, we want you to provide a target of at least 30% affordable housing. So all around Preston now, in the suburbs, in the city centre, in many places, you see affordable housing on housing developments, and you're seeing hundreds of affordable housing units that Preston families are in. And again, we made our own land available for social housing as well. We've done that. The community wealth building project that we started in 2013, myself and Martin in the cabinet, we were really pushing it then, and it's really taken off in the sense that, you know, we don't just sing to the tune of faceless developers like we did with the Tideborne regeneration scheme. Everything we've done in terms of regenerating our markets, our bus station, it's been done by public endeavour. And instead of construction corporations delivering those projects, it's gone to locally based companies, and that's seen, you know, many people receive jobs. I mean, there's food that's provided, that's feeding school children, printing services. You know, it's estimated there's 1,600 new jobs that have been created by repatriating £75 million worth of goods and services to Preston. There's 10 anchor institutions in the community wealth building scheme at the moment. So that includes our NHS. So as Angela Rayner said, our NHS chose to buy masks for the staff in the teaching hospitals for a Preston company. The contract was worth nearly £4 million, and that created 90 jobs for the pandemic. And again, this is something that we've really encouraged as a Labour council. We've done other things recently. We say to, again, on all developments, we want to have local supplies and local labour. So on the docks a few years back, there was a new Porsche showroom that was built, and again, I think 80% of the people working there are from a Preston postcode. We want to move to net zero by 2030. Our public pension funds investing directly in the city, building it's built student accommodation, it's refurbishing a hotel. We've taken back Preston Guildhall away from the Rigby Foundation, so we want to find a solution with that as well. And crucially as well, we're going to re-open our leisure centres on April the 12th. And again, the cabinet member, Peter Kelly, for cultural leisure has been instrumental in this. And that came into problems, and the Labour Council really bid for central government funding to make that happen. But really importantly as well, you know, we're tackling all kinds of discrimination, racism and prejudice in Preston. So events like Standing Together Against Racism and Show Racism the Red Card and Preston Pride and Transgendered Awareness Week, none of that was happening 10 years ago under Conservative-led councils. You know, we've got a number of these events. We want to take that a lot further. But we're really hungry to actually win on in 4 weeks' time on Thursday, May the 6th, because we do feel we're creating a new form of really creative, forward-thinking municipal socialism, and we've got the courage to actually challenge the system when it's leading to the inequalities and injustice that we see. So, as I said before, we want to work to establish our own bank, so our community is in charge of its own money. So it's going to be a regional cooperative bank, and we're working with Wirral and Liverpool, and that's envisaged to lend £600 million once established to local people and local businesses. As Gareth said, we want to establish 20 new worker-owned cooperatives. That's in our manifesto. So we want people to actually be in control of their own destiny. So there's that economic democracy. So they don't have to work for a boss. They own and control their own companies. They can share the profits, decide what they want to do. And again, you know, we're getting these springing up now. We don't want dozens working in worker cooperatives. You know, we actually want to get hundreds of people in a cooperative economy in Preston. We've got to go to our big institutions like the NHS and the university saying, well, can you recruit people in the areas of highest deprivation and unemployment and people who've lost their jobs through the pandemic? That's something we've got to do. And again, as Angela said as well, you know, because the big developer-led approach hasn't worked for Preston, we're actually going to do things ourselves. So we're going to build a very large cinema and restaurant development, and that'll be in local public ownership. So what will happen is any profits will return back to the city instead of outside investors. And again, that's going to create lots of jobs, and we're going to use local people involved on the project and also local suppliers as well. You know, so it's all extremely exciting what we're going through as well. And we want to actually move forward and actually look at how we can actually work with our big institutions, including the council, to actually produce energy in municipal ownership and look at community ownership of energy as well. And then also as well, obviously, we've got issues with youth engagement. We've successfully bid for a new youth zone. We want to actually deliver that youth zone, because obviously the best way of tackling antisocial behaviour is unleashing creativity that's in every child's soul, so they actually can express themselves and get involved in activity. So there's going to be a new youth zone in the city centre. And again, Councillor Peter Kelly, we've secured £11 million to regenerate our Harris Museum. We want to continue working with our fantastic youth organisations and others to actually tackle those structural inequalities and engage creatively with youth and other people in the city so they can actually express themselves very positively going forward. And again, crucially, we've got to continue our food hubs. I mean, we've provided nearly 1 million meals to families in Preston during the pandemic, but we want to continue that because there's going to be issues with destitution and food poverty that we need to address. And as Omar said earlier, we want to change that into food purchasing cooperatives, so the community can come together in a cooperative and buy food and reduce household energy bills. And really importantly as well, it's in our manifesto that after decades, we want to look to rebuild council housing again. So that'll either be us establishing a company, we've got plans for a scheme already on Grunshaw Street, or going to Homes England and say we want to directly deliver council housing once again within Preston. Because the reality is those people who've got us through the pandemic, they're often low paid. They can't afford to live in a house that's worth £300,000 or £400,000. They can't afford to pay £1,000 in rent every month. We need to build social housing again as a Labour council doing that. But crucially and equally, obviously we need to do that with Azhar and Clive, because Azhar himself has a fantastic manifesto. A county council will bring a good employment charter across Lancashire. They've got to take the buses put that under public control. They're going to provide free swimming for over 50s. And again, they're going to really move to tackle the climate emergency. And Clive's work has been fantastic as an advocate, lobbying for decent funding for our police service within Lancashire. And again, some of the things he's prioritised about hate crime, tackling hate crime, but against tackling violence against women, rural policing and restorative justice. You've got a really forward-thinking police and crime commissioner. And again, he's made sure that when police contracts are put out to tender, that they go as local as they can, that you get a real living wage in there, and trade union recognition in the people who actually provide those contracts. So it's been an excellent anchor institution. So there's so much at stake. It really does matter who's successful in 4 weeks' time. I mean, we really want to bring about that transformative change within Preston. And to do that, you've got to vote, you've got to vote for Labour here, for the City Council, Labour in the County Council, and also get Clive back as Police and Crime Commissioner. And tomorrow we're going to publish our manifesto, which is down here. It's it's been out to consultation. It's called Building Resilience and Recovery in Preston. And you've actually read the ambition within it. It's brilliant. And we got I think 18 fantastic candidates, 16 fantastic candidates standing for the City Council, each one committed to everything within that manifesto. And again, county candidates as well that are going to back that up. So please support us on Thursday, May the 6th, and please do get involved in the campaign if you can. And hopefully you've been a bit inspired by what you've heard tonight, and let's actually bring that change and build that change going forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Matthew, and thank you for bringing attention to the brilliant work that we're doing in Preston and some of the work that we hope to do beyond this election. So now we're going to bring in some speakers who are going to be Labour candidates for May the 6th. These Labour candidates will talk us through our 12 pledges, introduce themselves and highlight some of the issues in the seats that they seek to win. So we've got a few people coming in tonight. Our speakers are going to be Peter Kelly, who is hoping to be elected in Garrison, Jennifer Meehan, who is going to be seeking re-election in Leaton Lorches and Preston South East, Anna Hindel, who hopes to be elected in Ribbleton and Preston East, and Navida Khan, who's hoping to be elected in Plungington and Preston South West. So they're going to be reading out some of our manifesto pledges and just talking about themselves and highlighting some of the issues that they hope to go through. So we're going to start with Councillor Peter Kelly, and he's going to talk us through some manifesto pledges and some of the issues in his own ward. Go ahead, Peter.
Hi, thank you very much, Jade. Wonderful to be here. So my name's Peter Kelly. I'm a councillor currently, and I'm the candidate for Garrison Ward. I'm also the cabinet member for Culture, Leisure and Sports within Preston. And if you look behind me, this is one of our local artists, Sharon, whose art is freely available actually in our cafes, which are now in source and run. And I have been responsible in the last over the last 4 years to drive a project with the Labour group to get investment into the Harris Museum and Art Gallery. So we were successful with HLF funding, and we now have a fully funded £11 million reimagining project that will start, has actually started now, and in October we will begin the actual building work. So it's been an amazing time. we've definitely been trying to regrow the city. We recognise that actually, as part of this recession, culture and the economy, in terms of the recreation, the cultural economy, is a really important player, and we've invested that. And at the heart of all that we do is we embed the principles of the Preston model. Our apprentices are taken on as full-time staff. We pay the living wage, so it's really, really, a part of what we do. I've also been responsible for promoting and encouraging sports within Preston, and we are going to be the host to the Wales Rugby League team for the World Cup. Interesting, as an Australian, I've had to declare my allegiance to Wales if it's an Australian versus Wales final. But amazing to have them here, and they will hopefully be promoting the game of rugby league in the city. So obviously, you never know. We might have Preston, Wigan, St Helens. We'll see. The possibilities are endless. And what I'd like to do is to read out a couple of the pledges. So the first pledge is that Labour will launch a new cultural framework, which we've developed with the artists. So we've not actually been in the driving force. It's the creative community in Preston that have been the driving force. We will also support performance and art in our city centre, and we've been doing that during the pandemic. We've been running streaming events for live music to support artists and musicians who have been impacted by COVID-19, and we'll continue to be active in that area. And we will bring Preston Guildhall back into use as soon as we can. And also, the other pledge, and we've talked a little bit about regeneration, that Labour will regenerate our city centre with a £60 million investment, including a new youth zone, cinema, and restaurant development, and the reimagining Harris Museum and Art Gallery. We see that if you create an environment in which people will join into the city for the cultural activities that are there, you can help to regenerate the city. So these are the two pledges that I'd like to put to you to look at and to encourage you to get behind. Thank you, Jade.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Peter. The next candidate who's going to be speaking is going to be Jennifer Meehan, who is hoping to get elected in Leon Lodges and Preston South East. Hi, Jennifer, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, Jade, thank you. And thanks for inviting me here. But also, thank you to all the speakers that have been on before. I think it's been absolutely terrific. And I hope that there's plenty of people out there that have joined in to listen to it, because I think it just really showcases what Preston has done and what Preston intends to do. I'm really proud to be part of the great Labour team here and also in Lancashire. And I think the manifestos, both sets of manifestos, are exciting. And actually, the pledges from both, as you would expect from truly socialist Labour councils, they marry well together. Particularly, I think, the economic development and wealth building from Lancashire and from Preston, but also the health and well-being pledges, because I've spent a lot of time, particularly during the past 12 months, supporting community food hubs. And when I heard from Omar, I thought it was amazing that he acknowledges that so much support has been given by Preston City Council, and the number of hungry children that we've supported and the families that we've supported. And now that I'm on the doorstep speaking to residents, they appreciate what Preston's been doing. It's been noted, the fact that we've supported all of these people, and the fact that the way Preston City Council has actually handled the business grants during COVID, and they've managed to one of the quickest to get the grants out to the people and supporting, keeping businesses going, keeping the economy going during this pandemic. But I have to say, I thought Clive's speech was really inspirational, and it's really, really pleasing to me to hear that how much faith he puts into restoring neighbourhood policing, because as a representative in Lear and Larches and Preston South West, which includes St Matthews, Ribbleton and Fishwick, the packed meetings there we sadly miss the presence of neighbourhood policing teams, and the residents in those areas do too. So Clive, if you can bring them back, they'll be hugely welcomed in Preston. And I think what we've done, what the city's done, it's absolutely amazing. And the target of 30% affordable homes and new housing developments, which we don't always get, but we tend to be able to make it up in other areas as well. So I really support the manifesto.
Thank you so much for that, Jenny. Thank you very much for joining tonight, and really appreciate you speaking with us. Our next speaker tonight is going to be Anna Hindel, who's hoping to get re-elected in Ribbleton and Preston East. Hi Anna, how are you doing?
Oh, hi Jade, thank you. Hello, my name is Anna Hindel. I'm standing as a Labour and cooperative candidate in Ribbleton Ward for Preston City Council and Preston East Division for Lancashire County Council. We have a great team of existing Labour councillors in Preston East, whom I look forward to working closely with to support the residents. There's good news for Ribbleton and Preston East, as funding has been secured to reopen our local Westview Leisure Centre, and plans have been approved to provide 100% affordable housing on the former Ribbleton Hospital site. Regarding the pledges, Jenny's just mentioned that we have a target of 30% for affordable housing on new developments. We also hope to bring empty houses into use and work to provide public housing again, which is really important for so many people. I'm most excited about being able to contribute to improving the local environment and, more widely, the commitment to tackle climate change. At the Lancashire County Council Planning Committee, all of the Labour councillors voted to reject planning permission for the proposed waste incinerator at Red Scar. But sadly, the Tory councillors voted to approve it, so permission was granted. I have signed the 2030 pledge to ensure that Lancashire County Council work in collaboration with the local community to develop and implement a climate action plan regarding climate change, but this will only be enacted if Labour take control of the LCC. Additionally, the Labour-run Preston City Council aim to be a zero carbon city by 2030. There will be a lot of work to be done post-COVID to support the wider communities of Preston and Lancashire, and one of our pledges is to invest an additional £1 million in COVID-19 recovery, tackling climate change and community wealth building. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for that, Anna. That was really great of you to join us tonight and read out some of the issues that you hope to address, some of the issues that exist, and obviously reading the manifesto pledges as well. So our next speaker tonight, who's going to be hoping to seek re-election and speak on some of the pledges and issues in the ward, is Navida Khan, who's hoping to seek election in Plungington and Preston South West. Hi Navida, how are you doing tonight?
Hi Jade, thank you very much. Thanks for having me here tonight. And just as Jenny said, it's been great to hear everybody speak and their contributions tonight. All praise goes to Preston City Council and also the Shadow Cabinet at Lancashire County Council as well in their efforts. I'm the current I'm the councillor for the Plungington ward, seeking re-election. I'm also the candidate for the South West Division. Some of the issues are quite similar in both the county division and in the ward itself. Hopefully I continue for the ward, if I'm re-elected, to continue the work, especially the improvements that we've made with the police and the neighbourhood policing, and to tackle antisocial behaviour, tackle crime and disorder in the area. In the South West Division, I would have to say that it's been great whilst been canvassing with the local ward councillors and seeing what they've been tackling and the challenges that they faced over the previous years. They've been very fortunate and worked hard to get improvements in roads and have some funding allocated on Winfield Lane. Also, the Star Youth Club, which I am now coordinating and working with to retain it as a community asset, which is very important for the community in that division. So hopefully, if I am elected, that is something that I will be working on. I think I would have to say that COVID has laid bare many inequalities, and many of you have spoken about the inequalities, especially the structural inequalities, the equality, the economic inequalities, the impact this has had on communities. I have been very central in the support and the organisation and rollout of food hubs, supporting the community organisations, not only in the development of these, but in sustaining them. And we've heard from, from our community wealth building programme, how the cooperative development has taken place. Without Preston City Council and its vision on this, this would not have been achieved. So our pledge is that we will fight racism and all forms of discrimination through events and education, and continue to put resources into tackling hate crime. We have some fantastic projects already in place, which is the Heartstone projects working in schools, and on a yearly basis we have the event of Stand Up Against Racism, and we will continue with those. Our other pledges, which is a very important pledge, which many of our councillors and their leader has spoken about the food hubs. Well, we will continue to support our food hubs and food banks during COVID. We will retain community food hubs, supporting families up to £30 a week, promote free school breakfast, and establish new food cooperatives. So that is the work that we will continue with. And thank you very much for today, for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Navida. Thank you very much for speaking tonight and coming forward and telling us about some of the pledges and some of the things that you hope to do should you get re-elected. So our last candidate that's going to be speaking tonight is Samia Vora, who hopes to get elected in Sharrow Green. Hi Samia, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm fine. Good evening. Yes, a very inspirational talk by everyone there. And a big thank you to Matthew, because I actually find him quite inspirational as the Labour leader of Preston City Council. I think the effort and the hard work that him and his colleagues have done in the Preston plan and the investment in local areas has been unique, and it's excellent. It's actually inspirational. Now, I've never been a councillor before, so I'm hoping to get elected in the ward of Sharrow Green, which has 3 Conservative councillors. I have stood there before in 2019, and we did well, and we're hoping to do better this time round. Now, I have been using a lot of the Labour Party's dialogue system, the telephoning, and I do recommend that to everybody to get on there and start phoning around, because as Sharrow Green has no Labour councillors, the only way to find out what's going on is by speaking to people. And the easiest way to speaking to people, especially due to restrictions because of the pandemic, is by the telephone. So I found out that although Sharrow Green can be seen as quite an affluent area where, you know, on first going down the street, you might think there's nothing wrong. It's quite illuminating what the residents have said. And some of them have been the perennial parking issues that we all know about the hospital, staff parking, and visitor parking that is taking over that area. But interestingly, so many people have mentioned that there's potholes in so many of the roads in the Sharrow Green area, and also that the traffic calming measures in that area, because some of the streets are really long, they are insufficient, that even though there might be 20-mile-per-hour speeding zones, people are just speeding down those very long streets. Even more interesting, bearing in mind you would think that it's an affluent area, is that quite a few people have mentioned that there are certain areas where people do dodgy drugs taking. So as far as the Preston pledges are concerned, the Labour pledges, I am definitely very interested in Labour working with the police to tackle crime in these areas, because I think it's in places like Sharrow Green, it's often overlooked but they have a lot of green spaces and wooded spaces and things go on there that at first glance you wouldn't actually think would happen. Now, hopefully I will get elected. I've got my fingers crossed. There's a lot of work to do between now and the 6th of May. But as a newly appointed secretary as well of the Fulwood Labour Group, I intend to continue working with the residents and the members there to tackle some of the issues that I've just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Samia. Thank you to all of our candidates that have spoken tonight about the pledges and what they hope to do in the wards and some of the issues that they're hoping to address. So this brings our manifesto and campaign launch to a close. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched our virtual campaign and manifesto launch tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who has volunteered their time to talk to us. You've heard from speakers from people working in the community at grassroots level, to city and county councillors, to MPs and those working in the central government. And they're all telling us the same thing, in that the Conservatives have failed massively and people are sick of it. They want a government who is going to support them and help them to grow, achieve, progress and thrive, and not abandon the most vulnerable communities and cut services down to the bare bones so that councils like our own have to fight just to survive. This pandemic has laid bare the vast inequalities in society and how little the government cares about us, and instead how they only want to look after their own interests instead. We've had over a decade of the Conservatives now, but I say no more. We've seen what our local Labour council can do, what a Labour police crime and commissioner can do, despite the adversity we face on an everyday basis, and not just during a COVID crisis. This is the reality that we do have to fight every day. Think of what a Labour-led county council could do and what a Labour central government could do. Your support in the coming weeks, months and beyond is crucial, and we need each and every one of you out on the doorsteps, delivering leaflets, door knocking, talking with residents, spreading the word, raising support, and most importantly, giving Labour the vote in Preston. Our manifesto has laid out the vision of the things that we do hope to achieve in Preston over the next few years and how we can unlock its potential. Let's kick off the post-COVID recovery period by increasing our majority in Preston, turning Lancashire County Council red, keeping our Labour Police and Crime Commissioner, and eventually getting the Conservatives out of government. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night, and thank you very much for joining us.